Alan's Investigate, airing live on the United Public Radio Network, 105.3 FM in New Orleans. Yay! And welcome to the Alan's Investigate with me, Shona Allen.
And I'm Gary Allen, the Cockney Bard.
We're broadcasting live on the United Public Radio Network, 105.3 and 107.7 FM from New Orleans.
Yeah, baby.
This week, we'd like to welcome our special guest, Shawn Williamson, sculptor, stonemason, technical expert on ancient stone civilizations and writer. Shawn has travelled extensively throughout the world, including countries such as Chile and Brazil. He has special links to the late Andrew Sinclair and Rosslyn Chapel. And he has a new book out called Questus. Welcome, Shawn.
Welcome, Shawn.
Hi, Gary, Shona. Great to be aboard.
Nice
Hello.
to see you. Nice to see you.
How are you? Are you weathering the storm okay?
Yeah, it's abated and I've got a signal again. There was superficial damage and big seas. I live right on the coast here and everything's A-OK, back up and running, you know.
Brilliant.
Right.
Good stuff. I'm really glad to hear that.
Yeah, glad to hear that. We didn't have to get a late replacement, so that's good.
We don't have to shout all the way to Scotland now, so that's good.
No. Well, tell us a bit about yourself then, Shawn.
Yeah, okay, Gary, Shona. It's, you know, I started life as a stonemason. Before that, I was a merchant seaman on the Great Lakes, which gave me some great connections to America, North America, shall we say, and Canada. Mm-hmm. And my heart and soul was always in stone. And after a comprehensive career on the tools, shall we say, I met Andrew Sinclair in London, Chelsea, and you know, he asked me to help him with books and research, and we went on to investigate Rosslyn and various other buildings, stone buildings in the United Kingdom, and also my area of expertise was Knights Templar tombstones, particularly the symbols on them. So I worked with Andrew in that capacity, and as a result of that, he, you know, took me under his wing and taught me to write properly, professionally. Right. And I always wanted to do that from being a young kid, but it's not an easy way to obviously make a living. No. But that kind of came about in a roundabout way as I was a technical expert working with him on his great advancements in history, shall we say.
Right.
So that's it in a nutshell. I mean, later on, I went to South America recently, over the 4 years ago. Brazil, South America, investigating ruins, legends of the Knights Templar, which I guess is like a fulcrum for this show to some extent. Yeah. And of course, continued where I am in the north of Scotland with my links to the clan Sinclair when I worked for them as consultant mason. You know, I was party to some pretty heavy information, historical stuff. When I worked on the castle there, and although my own ancestors were known as the ancient sea kings, that is to say, clan Gun, which were both enemies and allies of the Sinclairs.
Yeah, we've seen some of your stonework, Shawn, which is fabulous stuff.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, amazing carvings and that.
Yeah, well, yeah, thanks, guys. I'm obviously equally appreciative of your great work out there as well. And, you know, you follow me, I follow you.
Yeah.
Very nice of you to say so. Following each other, that's the way to do it.
Yeah, and sorry.
Go on, Shawn.
Yeah. So anyway, whilst in Scotland, I discovered symbolic evidence of the possibility, or I would say probability, but I'm hesitant, of a connection between the Sinclairs and the Knights Templar, which has of course been poo-pooed through history. But more so than that, the idea that the Templars continued, the Knights Templars continued post-dissolution. That is to say, they brought another, or confirmed another order that was probably existing in some form or other in any case. And through this order, they carried on their exploration of geophysical sites in South America and other places. There's more to them than meets the eye. I mean, Freddie Silver will tell you that, and he's a guy that I follow as well. Graham Hancock, Hamilton White, and of course Carl Cookson. I was on their show, Lost Relics of the Knights Templar, which was fabulous. And you know, this whole forum that we've got, this connection of maybe elevated, I don't know, but certainly minds that are searching for true history. You know, and I want to be part of that. And you know, I'm trying to make my mark, really writing about some of the findings that I've accomplished, shall we say. But it's very difficult to get it out there as a valid paper, because the establishment is very closed, and well, lots of people are coming forward with advances in historical research and scientific research. And of course, the old guard want to grab onto their system or version of events, you know, like grim death.
Yeah, it's very difficult, isn't it, Shawn? Because I think with the mainstream, there's very much a narrative that they're pushing forward. And I think that anything that comes along and starts treading on that, it's kind of, oh, no, you know, you can't do that. But, you know, if we find things, I think, you know, science, history and everything should be far more open-minded, because if we find things that start to disprove the mainstream narrative, then we have to start investigating it to find the truth, don't we? And that essentially should be what anybody's interested in finding, is the truth, isn't it?
Absolutely. Well put. And that's the thing. We're on a, you know, we're part of an avant-garde of people that are testing the boundaries and limits of the world today in many ways, to some extent politically, scientifically and historically, and big changes are coming about, you know, and I think they call it evolution. And
it's about time. It's evolution in the wrong way. One-way evolution, and it's not our way, is it? It's not the truth, is it?
Absolutely. And so many people now are kind of waking up to realities around them, and as a result of that are bringing forward great treasures of the mind and spirit and of the body as well. I mean, whilst I'm up here in Scotland, for instance, I see a very famous herbalist, and I've had a lot of problems with my joints and stuff through heavy work over the years. And, you know, this guy is setting me straight, believe you me. Today I was actually, you know, carrying bags of shopping out of the car, but actually running, you know. And
can you do more shopping as well?
Yeah, we could do with that. Oh, what kind of herbs are they? We need some of those herbs.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, all sorts. Rose hips, you know, different. I mean, I'm on nettle juice, and it's been a grim couple of weeks, to be honest, because whatever joint problems I've had, it's taken a bit for this stuff to kick in. But you know, today I was like a spring lamb.
Yeah, you're looking well on it.
Yeah, you're looking very well.
You're looking very well on it.
I know, and I'm nearly 96.
Oh yeah. It's a wonder drug, then, isn't it?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You've obviously discovered the fountain of youth,
Yes.
Shawn.
You must share it. You must share it.
Share the secret.
The fountain of youth. Shawn Williamson has it. Yeah. So, what's this community arts project about, Shawn?
Well, you know, a long time ago, well, not so long ago, 2007, one of my big sculptures, which was based on the Rams, on the avenue in Rams in Egypt near the pyramids.
Oh, yes.
I brought together, I set up a project actually under a third sector organization, and we were able to bring in all sorts of people that had trouble in their lives, one way or the other. And we, you know, I introduced stone carving kind of on the curriculum, and they loved it. And that creative element helped them build themselves back, shall we say, from some of them had got previous form, shall we say, and all that stuff that's going on in the system at the moment. But this project was really good. I was really proud that I was able to help people through the active action of carving. But the interesting thing was that through that masonry project, learning to carve stone, learning to be a stonemason, learning to be a stone carver, it kind of set them in the right direction. And as the system is in this country, anything that seems to succeed better than what's in place, of course, we were quickly closed down. Well, actually, not that quickly. I carried it on under my own steam for some time, and we ended up, 3 of us, that's myself and 2 previous trainees, we went over to the United States and accomplished a 9/11 sculpture initiative. And as a result of that, you know, we had references from various senators and one from the White House as well, in context to creating a firefighter, obviously, after the 9/11 tragedy. And there was not enough support politically to carry this project on. I managed to keep it under my own steam, moving ahead for 1 year. But it ran out of momentum in terms of it being a business. But the project in total lasted 4 years, and you know, that's something that I was able to put back into society, something that benefited other people as a result of that. And when I talk about evolution, I'm saying that, you know, that's what I'm looking at for the future. We have to enable people, we have to enable populations, we have to work together for the benefit of mankind, not just for the few.
Yeah, for sure.
300 or whatever they are, for everybody, you know.
Exactly. It's evolution of understanding of the mind, Shawn. That's where we're at. That's where we're going. For people to understand what the mind is truly all about. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, well,
Shawn, can I ask you, in going back to Egypt, have you any sort of thoughts on how the pyramids were actually built? Do you have any idea, or?
I mean, I have. I'm actually more of a technical expert in as much as each stone, 2-ton stone that they had that was squared up, that's an average weight. There were some were smaller, some were bigger. But I know, because I know what it's like to square up a block of stone that's, you know, 3 foot square or whatever. And it's not easy. You have to have 2 men to lift it every time you dress aside. And it's all labor intensive. How they did that with stones weighing upwards of 2 tons, nobody's really got to grips with, I have to say. The scientists, none of them, they don't even know what tools were used. Absolutely. They say, oh, it's bronze tools. They say it's some, composite or type of.
I don't think it was hammer and chisel.
No, I mean, we're led to believe, aren't we, that they're sort of copper and stone tools that, that carve these really wondrous sarcophagi and things like that, which are made of granite, and you think, I'm not sure about that.
Yeah, we need to look at that again, I think, because even on the outside, on mainly limestone for the substructure of the pyramid itself, it was actually faced with polished limestone, so that they would appear to have shined in the sun in the distance. I quite often get to assess forgery. I've done a bit of that in different galleries in Mayfair, and it's incredibly difficult. But for instance, many antiquities galleries, for instance, are frightened of forgeries or having them discovered, of course, because money is king in these environments, and it's that's to the extent, just to show you that kind of expertise doesn't come from an academic ability. It comes from actually being able to read the stone, see tool marks, and actually see shadows of tool marks, even when the tool marks themselves have weathered away. My objective is to work in the future with some of the modern people that are involved in working out how the pyramids were built. For instance, Graham Hancock, as a technical expert, and I believe that from an operative stonemason's point of view, that I can do a lot to add to history in those areas, because
of course,
the guys that taught me at the guys that taught me at Carlisle Cathedral have a direct link or heritage to medieval masons. The medieval masons, of course, have a direct link back to the Temple of Solomon, and of course that's one of the main drivers, shall we say, in Freemasonry. And and of course before that the Templars. And this is the way, this is the area or perspective that I'm looking at in my historical research.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I think there is so much to learn and to find out. If only people would be more open-minded. I think the general public now is actually more open-minded, but I'm talking more about the experts in the field. I know that Graham Hancock, he received a lot of flack recently, didn't he, for his sort of propositions and things on ancient history, and unfairly so, because you have to question in order to find the truth, don't you?
Absolutely. And he's obviously highly intelligent, and maybe just for that reason alone he's a threat to the state of the affairs, shall we say. But I've read his books, and of course it's quite, when I met Andrew Sinclair, he's coming in from his perspective, which is, to be honest, 2/3 scholarly, and that's why he brought me in, was to have the technical edge over other people that are involved in these fields. And as a technician, and also as somebody that knows how stone is moved, and the physical requirements of what they did with the pyramids, if you know that, then it's what you see with the pyramids is impossible. You have 2.5 million stones on the inner core that were supposed to have been brought, by people living off crops and in villages situated around them. You know, there's something doesn't add up. You know, I mean,
No,
it doesn't take a rocket science to work this out. And you know, similarly in South America, you know, why are they finding mercury in tunnels under some of the great Aztec and Mayan temples? There's something, some missing link that I think all humans have got.
That's what I was going to say. There's so many unanswered questions, isn't there?
Yeah, exactly. And you know, we're all evolving. We all have that spirit of wanting to know the truth, because the truth will out. It's like there's a physical thing about the truth. And Gary was talking to me recently about this with some of his work, and you can't stop it coming out. You just can't.
No, you can't stop the truth coming out.
That's right. You know, I mean, if everything is built on a foundation of lies, then in the end, it's all going to crumble.
It'll all dissolve.
Exactly. And the truth, I think it was Elvis, actually. He said that truth is like the sun. He said, you know, it can be hidden for a while, but, you know,
it ain't going away.
It ain't going away.
It ain't going away. Can I ask you about Rosslyn Chapel? Because we know a bit about Rosslyn Chapel because we got engaged in Rosslyn Chapel. So it's a beautiful little place, and we also had some mystical experiences while we were there. It's funny because when I was there, I sensed the energy of some sort of battle going on. So that was quite strange. But up by the far end, wasn't it? With the what do they call that?
By the apprentice pillar.
Yeah, by the apprentice pillar. Yeah. So that was very, very interesting.
Yeah. Well, I was often at Rosslyn with Andrew, and whilst he was doing his later books, Rosslyn, I'd actually met him after he'd written the Secret Grail book and the Sword and the Grail, sorry. Right. And my father sent me that book and said, seek this man out. And I did.
Yeah.
And in a way, he became like a father figure to me, in as much as he taught me what he knew. And he taught me about some of the direct history connected to the Sinclairs and Rosslyn. And we were often inside Rosslyn Chapel investigating the carvings and huge information there that's, you know, documented in stone for some particular reason. And in my book Questus, I refer to the fact that Rosslyn was aligned similarly to other different huge edifices on the planet, as though like some other organization or civilization turned up and said, by the way, we need to get coordinates and buildings on these different sites on the planet. And Rosslyn was, I think, the last of them, which I believe there was a friend of mine as well, another old school guy called Jeff Nisbet, and his work was incredible because, you know, he pointed out that encoded in the ceiling of Rosslyn is really the ground plan, shall we say, of the nemesis of the planet, in as much as once mankind falls away from the grace of God, then because the earth is a living, functional organism of some description, then what happens is that some kind of an off switch happens, or on switch inside the planet, which creates geophysical hell, and it starts again. And this information is supposed to be encoded in the stonework of Rosslyn, just like in the retro chapel we find the cymatic coordinates of the lost and sacred hymn to John the Baptist, which was an incredible song that worked off the resonance quality of that particular song, so much so that it was taken out by the Roman Catholic Church. But this was an awakening hymn in, I'm not a musician, but what happened is that it awakens something in mankind that elevates their thought process and consciousness. And I believe that that's what Rosslyn was. It was a temple that had been constructed in sacred geometric coordinates that could elevate the human soul to some extent. And I believe it was all the carvings are encoded secrets, which William Sinclair was responsible for. He had that information from the Temple of Solomon. Makes perfect sense, you know. And so it was more to it all than meets the eye. Andrew was the only person, and I think at the time it was partially illegal, when he went and did his excavation under Rosslyn Chapel. He didn't get into the vaults themselves where the great sacred relics are supposed to be, but he did get onto the outside, I think, to some extent, and found, and that's on one of his films in actual fact, the little wooden grail bowl carved in wood. And we know that I've had it dated to some extent, not carbon dated, but experts have told me that it's definitely medieval. I particularly think it's a lot older than that. And so 2019, when I was down in Chelsea, and normally I used to go around to his apartment overlooking the Thames, and we'd have a few glasses of wine. I knew he wasn't very well, and he said, "I've got a present for you, Shawn." And he said, he gave me it, you know, he gave me the Grail, which I have in safekeeping somewhere. And that was the last time I saw Andrew. So in a way, it was like, here's the baton. You're carrying on not just your own work, but you know, you're carrying on mine to some extent as well.
Yeah.
So incredibly blessed in that respect. Yeah.
Well, it's funny, Shawn, because I had a friend who was much older than me. He was 30 years older than me, and in a similar vein, he was like, although I had a father, he was like a father figure too, you know. And he was someone I loved dearly, you know. And he died on my birthday, so so you know, you never forget him. But
he taught you a lot, though, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. He was a great man, and you know, so I understand where you're coming from with that, and to meet someone, and it's the sort of person that you meet only once in a lifetime, you know.
Yeah, and I think, you know, generally speaking, what you've said is good for all people, because, you know, to have that system that we had where communities looked after each other, and we looked after old people, and there was a sense of being able to glean from them wisdom to make our own lives better. And, you know, there was an escalating, you know, rolling program of a way to get through life. All those mechanisms now in the way that we live have been destroyed by ultra materialistic
for sure.
all that brainwashing stuff that's going on, you know.
Well, I mean, the thing is, Shawn, I mean, I was 33 years of age, and I'm not kidding you, I didn't even know who Shakespeare was. And it was him who introduced me to that, and he read me Sonnet 144, Two Loves I Have of Comfort and Despair, and that was the sonnet which led me on the path of Shakespeare and other things. So that was an amazing thing for me, amazing experience to get that. And I knew that Sonnet 144 wasn't about a gay lover at all. It was about the two sides of the mind, the good and the bad, which we all have. So, yeah, that was very interesting. Shawn, I want to bring you on to something else interesting about Ghislaine, and because I've got a story about that. And it's very interesting because it tied in with you and the Templar Lodge. But basically, I was on a ferry going to Le Mans with an ex-girlfriend, and when we was on this ferry, there was an elderly lady there, and I said to my partner at the time, I said, I've got to go and talk to that lady. And she said, oh, you know, do you have to? And I said, yeah, I've got to. And I went over and started talking to her, and then we started talking about things, and I said, oh, I'm interested in Dr. John Dee, Elizabethan astrologer. And she said, oh, that's funny. She said, because my son is studying him at the moment, right? I said, no. She said, yes, he is. She said, I'll introduce you. So she introduced me to him. And when I met him, he gave me a book called The Holy Blood and Holy Grail, which is quite a well-known book. And he said, oh, you want to read it? So I don't read books, and I only take what I need from any book. I never read a book. But anyway, so I get The Holy Blood and Holy Grail, and I gave it back to him after 6 months. And he told me that he had links to Ghislaine, right, which is the Templar Lodge. So that was interesting. Anyway, so I carried on the journey over to France, and I went into a bookshop called L'Arfenor, which is the alchemist's furnace. That's what it means in French. And when I went in there, I took with me another copy of The Holy Blood and Holy Grail, because I ended up getting 3 copies in the end. And I was trying to find information about a guy called Jean-Baptiste Pitois, who was he was an interesting character. He wrote the Histoire de la Magie from 1870. And the strangest thing in the world happened is when I was in this bookshop, I got talking to the guy in the bookshop, and he went out to the back store and he brought out an original copy from 1870 of the Histoire de la Magie. My girlfriend at the time, her name was Pitois, the same as Jean-Baptiste Pitois. And he pointed up to a print on the wall, and he said, look at that. And I looked at it, and it was a picture of an alchemist, and it was from that book, the Histoire de la Magie. And he'd had it on his wall for 2 years. So this is how I got to find out about the Templar Lodge and Ghislaine. It's incredible. Yeah. Billions to one.
It was a fulcrum of modern alchemy, shall we say, in many ways, because I did a bit of speaking there, and you know, I was party to Bob Brydon, Knights Templar historian in Scotland. His great lecture there on Templar properties, and another historian that I greatly admired was Bob, and then Stephen Pryor. And I was a stonemason and sculptor, basically working on the tools, and I often he used to let me stay there for free, and I'd do him a sculpture or something like that, a Templar sculpture. And absolutely fascinating forum. And you got Andrew Sinclair, you got Ian Sinclair, you got Bob Brydon, you got not Henry Lincoln, but other big Templar writers that had gone there.
Yeah.
And you know, it was the pinnacle really of Templar exploration, but it went a bit further than that. And you know, obviously when Stephen Pryor Sinclair died, it all collapsed. But they got into some really mystical exploration, and all good stuff. It was actually there that I found out about it was a Campbell Knights Hospitaller, that Christian, but in the, shall we say, the Celtic type of Christian, almost as if it had a link to the Culdees. And this guy was bringing, in the 1500s, was bringing back precious stones from the Middle East. Wow. And these stones were being used to cure cattle, cure people. They used to let them soak in water, and you know they have the evidence for this. and this was because this guy was interacting with Islamic knights and had a great range of contacts. And oddly enough, that's got to be some form of alchemy, which is what I was thinking about today, Gary. But fabulous that you brought that up. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I spent a fair bit of time with Stephen Pryor, and I really enjoyed his company. And I got to meet his partner or his wife, and he had a beautiful child. She was about 4 when I know, so she's probably a beautiful young lady now. I've no idea. I haven't had any contact, but it was very sad when I heard that he died, because I think that they had the basis of something really, really good there. And you said about that, didn't you?
Yeah, we were talking about, because when we went to a conference, and there was quite a few different authors and things there, and he was kind of starting the basics of podcasting.
He was,
and doing sort of live broadcast of conferences. And I think, sadly, I think it was just a little bit too early for it to catch on at the time, but it was a brilliant idea and a brilliant forum.
But it does show you, Shawn, though, how mystical life is. I mean, the fact is, you're sitting here now talking to us, and my journey with that was some sort of 20 odd years ago, before I went to Ghislaine and before I met Stephen Pryor, and then I found out about yourself having a connection to it. It's amazing synchronicity, isn't it?
It absolutely unbelievable and
phenomenal.
It was the same for me when I got the call to go to South America. I mean, I met another artist in Cumbria, and I was kind of thinking, what's going to be my next move? I mean, immersed in creativity. I'd had some reasonable commissions, and I just didn't know what was going to happen next. And suddenly I get the opportunity to go and live on an island in Chile.
Wow.
Well, of course, I booked my ticket before I'd even thought about it, you know what I mean? And I lived over there for 6 months and did some incredible exploration, actually in a rowing boat, because the area I was in was steeped in the history of the Templars and their travels in Chiloé, which is halfway down the length of Chile itself. And as a result of that, it in a way connected, because in South America, they love Britain, and particularly Scotland. And of course, I've got links up here anyway. And I thought, I feel a book coming on here. That whole situation enabled Questus to live. And of course, when I met the filmmaker and media developer Nathan Newman, we should try and get Nathan on sometime, because he's a great guy.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, we'll have to have both on again. Yeah.
Yeah, and we're developing a video game from the book and possibly a film. But at the moment, we've got a small trailer, but it's moving. We've only kind of released Questus in early October, and it's steaming away.
Brilliant.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah.
Can you tell us a bit more about it, Shawn?
Yeah, well, I mean, it combines many of the legends of the Templars and what they were about. It goes into a bit of a bleak history about them as well, and their excavation of other ancient buildings. You probably know that the Templars were responsible for the great flowering of Gothic architecture in Europe, probably because they learnt about building techniques whilst they were in the Middle East. There's a big link to the Middle East with our own cathedrals in how architecturally they were developed. But it brings some of that into play, but it also it's a strange. No, I wouldn't say it's a strange book. It's a book that, from the reviews that we're getting at the moment, it's an inner journey, and through that inner journey, through the myth reality scenario, people are able to get a deeper grasp of what's happening in the world. So it's like an awakening tool. But there's some interesting facts in the book as well.
Yeah, interwoven,
yeah, there's more fact in it, but a lot of it is disguised as fiction, and it moves in a way that is, in a biblical sense, it's got like the words convey spirit in some way that I'm not completely aware of at the moment, but it's still
a bit like, sorry, Shawn, it's a bit like the Gnostics then, because all that was kind of moving through words and text, allegories, finding that divine wisdom within that text, leading you on a journey. Again, a bit like going back to alchemy, like The Alchemist, because within alchemy, a lot of it was allegory, and that was all about, a path from lead to gold, from the base metal to gold, the purer form of gold, and it's about spiritual enlightenment,
and philosophical Freemasonry. The polishing of the ashlar. That's the whole point at the end of the day, isn't it? Perfecting your soul, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly, and that's a really good way of putting it. In actual fact, it's not an easy process to describe, I think, which is why people write about it in a fantastic way, and it's through the myth that you get the fact. And we look into the nature of human consciousness and our, in a way, responsibility on the planet and where it's all going. We seem to be arriving at, I'm coming back to this again, I guess, but where are we going with humanity? What's going to happen to the planet? There's got to be an involvement now in a way that I don't want to see it go down a technical media, not technical digital style way. I want us to get back to the old skills that have been lost, and telepathy, sixth and seventh sense, and a greater knowing of God, shall we say. And
absolutely.
Yeah.
I think that's the thing, Shawn, is that people have to understand that sublime intelligence that runs throughout nature, that's what God is. They seem to miss the point, don't they? It's in every living thing, isn't it? Whether you're gay, straight, whatever you are, it does not make no difference. You're all part of this enormously beautiful creation that's in the planet, the nature, the trees, absolutely everything is all part of God, isn't it? It's wonderful,
Yeah, and of course that's the thing, and that's why we feel so good on a summer's day out in the open with nothing, maybe a sandwich, maybe by the sea. And I remember, my mum taking me and my brother to Morecambe Beach, and we're out there all the time. We're out there for 6 weeks in the sun, and every day, and swimming in the sea as youngsters, and it was a fantastic life. And that seems now to that kind of existence, it seems like people are forgetting about it,
Oh, absolutely. With the artificial intelligence, it's an absolute disaster, isn't it? I mean, people are saying, thinking, oh, it's good to have a chip put in your head or a chip put in your hand, and that's the way forward, and a mobile phone.
The only chips I like are on a plate, salt and vinegar.
Yeah. I don't think so, Shawn.
Well, I get exactly what you're saying, and I thought about that. But the people who are advocating this, they should actually try it out for the rest of us, eh? And it could actually be brought into Parliament. That'd be good, wouldn't it? you know.
It would.
They might
Yeah, we
get
can just
some,
switch them all off if we want. If we don't like it, with a remote control, go beep.
yeah, absolutely. The alchemy bit, I must tell you, I don't know how long we've got left, but the alchemist Michael Scott was a guy that was reputed to have, in medieval times, lived till he was 120, and he was responsible. He was actually the teacher and corrector of the Great Fibonacci, which of course was written about intensely in the Da Vinci Code.
Yeah.
And Michael Scott was the wizard that was in charge of alchemy for Frederick II of Italy, who was involved with the Templars as well. And he also translated great amounts of text from Hebrew and Arabic into Latin, which eventually became into the English language. And he was probably the greatest of all time of alchemists. And there's a place on the coast of Cumbria, which is the Sturtian House. It's not a monastery, but it's like an abbey. Home Countrum, it's called. And he's supposed to be buried there, Michael Scott.
Wow.
You know the legends of the Templars at Bannockburn?
Yeah.
Well, oddly enough, also buried there is the father of Robert the Bruce, the Earl of Carrick. And he's buried under a Templar type tombstone as well. So what I'm saying is that I believe that there was a school of thought within the Templars about the true nature of the world and humanity. And I believe that the symbols that I've found on the tombstones, which go back to the Temple of Solomon, are from an older school that the establishment has tried to erase from history. And all that's left now, yes, there are some historical writings, but moreover, there are many more symbols that I've been party to excavating. And I guess that's my part in what Gary was talking about before in terms of alchemy. But, you know, that can work side by side, I think, with spiritual value, Christian or otherwise. And it's a great thing to go back to that medieval platform of the Templars. It's like all roads lead to them, eh? And that's why people were interested in them. It's not just because they were good, they were brilliant fighters. It was because of their philosophical nature of their raison d'etre, shall we say.
Well, exactly. So that's a great thing that people misunderstand. I mean, I was told many times through my gifts and that all roads lead to France. And if you see the Templars in France and all the wonderful things over there, it's astonishing, isn't it?
Absolutely.
You know?
Funnily enough, Shawn, today I went grocery shopping. How exciting. And I could have done with you carrying them, actually. But I was walking past in the grocery store. They have kind of a charity bookshelf where people put their old unwanted books, and then people just pick them up and give a donation to a charity. And as I was walking past the bookshelf today, a blue book caught my eye, and I looked and I stopped and I picked it up, and it was actually a book in French and it was a guide to all the Templar sites in France. How amazing. It's written in French.
Amazing. Yeah,
but I just thought how amazing it was, considering that you were coming on this evening to us this evening.
Well,
during the day to America this evening.
Synchronicity, as they say.
Yeah, for sure.
It is synchronicity. Yeah, it's amazing. Shawn, I can tell you that we have some amazing adventures ahead of us. I know it. And I also know that the whole consciousness of the planet is changing. People are heading towards the truth now. They're not going to tolerate all the nonsense and the rubbish and the books of lies and lies and lies. They're not going to tolerate it anymore. the lies of the media. It's not happening. It's gonna soon end. So I'm looking forward to that day. Really am.
Yeah, well, I mean, you've done some great work, of course, both of you, to keep the torch of enlightenment burning in these dark times, and others as well. And we've got a great group in the making here, and it'd be lovely to expand it to more people formally.
For sure. Yeah, for sure.
Definitely.
Yeah, if the basis of their thing is truth, then they're welcome aboard.
Yeah, the common goal is to
the
help
common goal,
each other,
to help mankind, isn't it? To spread the truth. Absolutely. And to understand what the truth is all about. As I say, Shawn, it's not your truth or my truth; it's the truth. That's what it is.
Absolutely. That's it. That's the way to. Yeah, that's a good way to put it in its place. Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
So with your book, I'm really interested as well, because I did actually watch a little video the other day, which was really interesting. And you were talking about your book, Questus. That's right. And I think it was Nathan. He was actually holding up a Templar sword that you'd carved from stone, which was absolutely amazing.
Yeah. Well, that was the idea based on the sword and the stone, and we decided we're going to make more in the future as well. Actual illustrations, three-dimensional illustrations, and I carved a sword, a Templar sword, in stone or slate, which is it's a volcanic type of stone. But I actually copied the sword itself from a tombstone where it had been carved into the surface of the tombstone at Temple Ballantradock. And it was a friend of mine, another stonemason in Scotland, called one of the best, called Shug Douglas, and weirdly a Douglas clan guy, and he sent me a picture of it, and I replicated that in 3D with the addition of creating the name of God in Hebrew on the hilt, and that's the writing on not on the hilt, the cross guard, with the Templar cross in the circle itself. But that sword has an immense energy, and on some of the videos that we're working with at the moment with Nathan and the film, then the guy that's playing the main character, Angus McWilliam, he's actually using the sword as if it was a real sword.
Wow.
Excuse me. And it's remarkably similar to the weight. So how that occurred, I don't know. But there's an elevated energy about that whole composition with this guy, the actor. It looks like a Stonehenge type site, but in the book it's above Loch Eriabol, which is called the Wheelhouse, and this is where megalithic peoples. Now listen to this. This blew my mind. Went high above Loch Eriabol in the north of Scotland, and there they would plot out the trajectory of the moon. I mean, very, very complex astronomical procedure. And then I was in this conversation with the megalithic version of events. They were talking about that this could have been that. And this other guy turned up and said, actually, this is to do with the British Israelites, shall we say. This is what the lost tribes of Israel, they created these sites, complex sites of standing stones, so that they could plot on, when they left the Middle East, so that they could plot out their sacred days in context to witnessing the trajectory of the moon. So, for instance, the Feast of the Passover. the diaspora Jews or Hebrews was their name. And I thought that is absolutely fascinating. And, you know, the Scots are very different. The original Scots are very different from the English. You know, they've got a peculiar martial law of inheritance, of being able to, you know, fight anywhere, and particularly the English, who were insurmountable in medieval times. But look what Robert the Bruce did at Bannockburn, and undermanned. There's something in them from a deeper ancient connection. And it's, you know, it's incredible when you start seeing arrangements of stones and their alignment to astronomy. I mean,
oh, absolutely,
for sure.
That's a whole new show.
It certainly is, because we don't go on to the Druids and the ancient Egyptians, because I know they were very much into you know, star alignments and things. I mean, you only need to look at the Dendera temple, the zodiac there, to see that.
Yeah.
So ancient people, that was their life. You know, everything basically hinged upon what was going up in the skies.
It's written in the stars, Shawn. It's written in the stars.
It is indeed.
that's it, yeah.
I think we're going to have to be winding up in a minute, Shawn, but it's been an absolute fascinating conversation with you.
Well, just to finish, Shawn, as well, so with your book Questus, where can people actually go to find more information and maybe buy it if they're interested in buying it as well?
Yeah, you could go to, there's the website where you saw the video, Shawn, on ShawnWilliamson.com.
Shawn
Lovely.
And that's
Williamson.
Shawn spelled with a W, SHAWN Williamson.com. Or it's actually on Amazon under Questus.
Right.
Lovely. Thank you very much,
so
Shawn.
that should be nice and easy to find then. But I wish you all the very best with it, Shawn. I think it's a wonderful thing, and I really hope to see this film coming shortly as well. I know films do take quite a long time in the making, don't they? There's a lot that has to go into it, but I'm really excited for you with this.
Yeah, excited for you, Shawn. You're a top man, and it's been wonderful talking to you.
Yeah, and nice to be on the same team as you guys. It's been great, eh?
Absolutely.
Indeed.
Okay, bye-bye.
Lots of love
Take
to
care.
Shawn. You take care.
Lots of love to you both. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Be careful in that storm as well.
Yeah.
I will.
Take care. Thank you. So, finishing off then, darling, we'll say thank you for joining the Allen's Investigate with me, Shona Allen, and
Gary Allen, the Cockney Bard.
And we are broadcasting live on the United Public Radio Network, 105.3 and 107.7 FM from the beautiful city of New Orleans. You can also check us out on the Allen's Investigate, which is www.theallensinvestigate.com. Cheers, everybody, and thank you for listening.